Today, I want to talk about something I learned editing my very first documentary film that was called Eyes of the Mothman. This was a film I made right out of film school, and honestly, my goal wasn't to make something commercial. My goal was just to learn how to make a documentary at all. That was it. And what ended up happening was kind of crazy. The film became a bit of a surprise hit, and it was sold in Best Buys, distributed internationally, it aired on Discovery Channel, and it even landed on Netflix. And looking back now, there was one production decision I made that ended up greatly affecting my post production and my editing workflow. And that's what I want to share with you today because it's something that I also carried with me to every documentary and unscripted nonfiction project I worked on after that. So here was the basic idea. While we were filming interviews, I made a pretty specific choice to capture cutaways of each subject's eyes. Just tight shots, close-ups, nothing fancy, just their eyes. Now, a quick definition before we gloss over it. A cutaway, in case you don't know, is an insert shot that you use to break up longer pieces of footage in interviews. It's often used to hide edits, and it's used to smooth pacing, and it also adds a bit of a visual interest. And in this case, the cutaway was extremely intentional because the film was called Eyes of the Mothman. We knew that going in, so thematically it made sense. And one of the things we wanted to do aesthetically to play up that title was to shoot close-ups of the eyes of the interview subjects. This also was born out of the phrase that I am very fond of, that the eyes are the gateway to the soul, and that to find the truth of this topic and subject matter, one must look into the eyes of the interview subjects telling you their story. But what I fully didn't realize at the time was how powerful that decision would become in the edits. When you're cutting interviews, especially documentaries, you're constantly shaping dialogue. You're moving pauses, tightening thoughts, restructuring sentences, which creates jump cuts. And jump cuts can feel jarring if you don't have a way to cover them. And now I fully realize that in today's youth and on social media, they have made jump cuts feel very normal and almost standardized. They're everywhere. They're fast, they're punchy, and they're accepted. But a documentary is a bit different. In a documentary, yes, we are shaping reality and we're condensing answers, adjusting timing, sometimes even restructuring how something was said. But the last thing you ever want is for the audience to feel that, see that, or recognize it, or even worse, suspect it. Because the second the audience becomes aware of the edit, you risk breaking trust. And that is a real danger of a jump cut in an interview in a documentary format. It's not just creatively distracting, it can create doubt. It can make the viewer question what they're watching and ask if it's been manipulated. And once that trust is gone, it's really hard to get it back. That's where these eye cutaways became incredibly valuable. Instead of awkward jump cuts, I could cut to the eyes, and it actually conveyed an emotional aesthetic to the viewer. Then I could come back to the wide shot or medium shot of the full interview. It was smooth, it was invisible, and it was intentional and motivated by the film's title. Now, this isn't limited to just eyes in other capacities. You can cut away to anything, a subject's hands, a reaction, a detail in the room even, anything that gives you a visual bridge. And those shots can be used in the exact same way to shorten dialogue, to clean up mistakes, or hide audio edits without the audience ever feeling it. Now, I will say there's something newer that I didn't have back then because I was shooting on standard definition. Now, when shooting in high def, if you're shooting in 4K, 6K, or 8K, you actually have the ability to punch in during the edit and create kind of a digital cutaway later on in the edit, especially if you're going to end up finishing and delivering in 1080. You can always reframe, push in, and create a new shot from the same clip when using high def footage, and it actually works. But I still strongly recommend getting the shot on set because the real cutaway will always feel a bit better. It'll have better depth of field, and it has natural movement, natural perspective, and it just feels a little more intentional and real. A digital push-in is more of a tool, not a replacement. Think of it like this. High resolution, it gives you a safety net, but good production gives you better creative control. So if you forgot to grab the cutaway in the field, shooting high res can absolutely save you and you still have an alternative there. You can create that extra coverage in post. But if you plan for it in production, your edit becomes faster, cleaner, and stronger, and just seems more intentional. And that leads to the bigger lesson. Editing does not start in post, it starts in pre production and production. There's this idea that people throw around often, and that is, we'll fix it in post. And honestly, that's one of the most dangerous mindsets you can have because the best editing decisions, they are baked into how you shoot, what angles you capture, what inserts you grab, what coverage you plan for. That's true editing, just doing it earlier. Those eye shots were not something I found later. They were something I planned for, even if I didn't fully understand or realize how it would be used in post and what effects it might have in the storytelling. And because of that, the edit had immense flexibility. It had rhythm, it had intention. And I've carried this device in production, a simple thing, right? Just pick up a cutaway. In every documentary, in every unscripted interview I did after that project. In fact, I'm always thinking, what do I need later to make this cut work? So, if you're shooting interviews, here's the takeaway. Don't just capture the conversation, capture what might become in the edit. Because when production and post are connected, your storytelling gets stronger, your workflow gets easier, and your final piece feels intentional instead of patched together. And that is today's Edit Me Monday.